Thank you so much for watching. My name is Helen and I'm the MD for Redberry Recruitment. And every month we do various live videos. We do some on Twitter, we do some on Facebook, about various different topics that either people ask us to write about or we feel will be really relevant. So we're going to go back to, we've actually done quite a lot of stuff on this over the years. We've got a Redberry TV channel, but this is something that we think is really prominent, and it's about really how to write a really good CV. Now, we see, as you can imagine, hundreds of different CV styles, from pages and pages long to literally just a couple of sentences. And we just want to impart, I just want to sort of give you sort of a very sort of quick synopsis, maybe about sort of 5-10 minutes maximum, as to how we think and what the feedback is from our clients, what a good structured CV should look like. Now, we have various links on our website of examples as well, but equally as well, we're always happy to help. So if there is a CV that you've got and you haven't got time, to sort of have a look at it over yourself, bring it in. We won't do it for you. We do work actually with a CV writer that tends to do mainly with sort of senior CV writing CVs, but we are happy to advise. So the first thing is make sure that it's no more than 2 pages. So you know that you're working to a 2-page maximum. Anything longer than that, people do start to switch off, and also there's then going to be more waffle as well. If there is any background noise, it's because it's half term, there's kids, there's dogs, there's all sorts outside, so just in case it's not us going crazy. So stick to a 2-page maximum. The second thing is use ideally Word. So if you're typing anything up, most people have a Word package of some description, whether it's up to date or whether it's quite an old one. Word can still be, it might slightly change it. That is the best one. If you send it in, say Adobe, or if you send it in a way that maybe some people might not have that package, from a recruitment perspective, we then need to, what we call, sort of doctor the details. So if you're sending it to us, we can do it. We've got systems and packages in place that we can obviously access and change it into a word converter. But if you're sending it to a business or sending it to a recruitment agency, if it's easier for them, then if you can send it in Word, that'd be great. So the first thing is your name. I know that sounds really bizarre, but the amount of people that don't put a name on and they title it Curriculum Vitae. We know what it is. Please don't worry about telling us what it is. So just pop your name on the top. The second section is then going to be your personal details. So this is your phone number, your address, how they can contact you, maybe it's an email, but please check it's correct. The amount of times that we as recruiters, and I know employers as well, have the incorrect phone number, there's a digit missing, or there's 1 digit too many. The email address maybe is a .com, not .co.uk, or again, misspelt, there's too many S's in it. But also have a think about the email address that you're using. Now, when you're looking for work, there's an awful lot of, I would say, unprofessional email addresses out there. It might have been funny when you were 15 years old and setting up some dodgy email address from an AOL account because you thought it was funny. Just think about the impression that you're giving off. So that the first one is that it's name, then your personal contact details. Just check that they are correct. And as I said, if you have a dodgy sounding email address, you might want to change that. And equally, on a voice message, if you have a voicemail facility, then just think about the voicemail pickup that's going to be left. I talk about various things in schools about sort of the various voice messages that I've had over the years to leave messages on, and some of them are a little bit random. So, it's very easy, just, your name, but make sure there is a voicemail facility as well, because a lot of people, as I said, don't have voicemail facilities. So, very basic personal contact details. The second thing is your personal profile. This should be no more than, say, a paragraph, which is normally about 8 to 10 sentences ideally. And this is saying what you've done succinctly and what it is that you're looking to do. So this is how we can tailor a CV. You might hear people say that you've got to have different CVs for different jobs. In some cases, yes. I won't go into the ins and outs as to why. In some cases, yes, but the majority of people, you have a working life history, you've got where you've worked, you've got your qualifications. There might be more emphasis on one than the other, but ultimately, your job is your job. And so it's going to be unlikely you're going to need a different CV for the different jobs that you're going to be applying for. As I said, there are some certainly exceptional circumstances. So your profile is a summary of that, and then what it is that you're looking for. Now we have examples out there. Again, I'm happy to talk to people if you need an advice, and we have a CV writer that we work with. But your profile is your selling tool. Now your CV is ultimately your selling tool, but your personal profile is what a lot of recruitment agencies will look at, what other employers will look at. They might skim read it, but you need to make sure that you're getting across your real key points of where you've worked. Maybe it's if you're in sales, you've increased sales by X percentage, or if you're looking at cost savings, you've saved money. Whatever it is, pull out the key things that you're going to talk about in your CV, but you pull out those key things so they're there, and then why it is that you're looking to move. So it could be, I'm looking to relocate to the area, or I'm looking to work for an environmental company that's passionate about. So if there's a particular job or company, you can just put the last couple of sentences, and again that will help sort of target the right people, and that's the bit that you will tailor, because there's only so much that you can alter on a CV. But make sure that you get all that good information out. If you're, I would say, probably under the age of 25, you will then, I would say, put your education. So your education, you're going to have less work experience unless you've gone straight into work, in which case you're going to have good sort of 6-7 years of work history. But if you're under 25 and you've sort of still gone through your GCSEs and your A-levels and you're at uni, you're going to have less work experience and less work history and more emphasis on your qualification. So put your education down. If you are, say, over 25, or if you've gone straight out of sort of 16, 17, 18 and gone into work, then you'd obviously put your work history. So just have a think about sort of what looks best for you. Now, I now would put my education at the back, so I've got oodles of work and life history. But somebody just starting, so somebody finishing A-levels, maybe unlikely that they're going to have the relevant work experience. They'll have some experience, hopefully, from having maybe a Saturday job. Again, put that down there. But what the employers probably want to go and see is maybe the qualifications that they've got. Whether it's qualifications, whether it's your education, whether it's your training things that you've been put on, or your work and employment history, is always chronological order. So with that, we mean the most recent first. So I'm not going to put something that I did back in the 1980s. If I did a course that might be relevant still now, I put something in 2019. So you're working back, so 2019, etc., etc. So if you put your education first, then the next thing would be sort of your transferable skills. And if you put your if you're slightly older and your education doesn't come before your job history, then again we want your transferable skills. So these are things like people skills, time management, things that you've either picked up maybe in the sports that you do or the jobs that you've done, key skills that you feel are transferable, because these are some of the things that employers will look for. You might not have the relevant experience, but you will be surprised that some of the things that you do in your day-to-day life would be really good to transfer over to, say, our working life. So for example, I hear a lot about mums. They say, oh my God, I've been out of the workplace, first 3 years I've been bringing up my children. Well, if you actually look what a mum has to do, or dads out there, negotiation skills, get your kids to clean their teeth and all of that. You've got budgeting, you've got good time management, having to take kids there and there. So just have a think about what skills that you've got that you feel that you can pop onto your CV that help you, as I said, sort of sell yourself. So we've looked at skills, we've looked at transferable skills, education, as I said, both chronological order, and then we have your work experience. Now, I would call it work history rather than work experience, because work experience for me deems maybe unpaid work, unless that is the case. But certainly with work history, again, the most recent. I like to see a little bit of blurb on the company, so what the company is all about and what your role was in a couple of sentences, and then bullet point the duties. The worst thing you can do is just read and read and read, because it just gets messed. Too much black writing on a page can get really quite messy for someone to read. So bullet points, and rather than, again, if you have the opportunity, rather than just listing sort of 10, 15 in a line, if you can put them on either side, so you've got, say, maybe 4 on each side if it fits, then again, just think about aesthetically how it looks and whether that's easy for somebody to read. So these are key things. So it could be, you were, a key holder, you arranged the rota roster, you were, in charge of a team of 10. Again, just have a think. Now you can take this information from your job descriptions. So if your employer has a good job description, then I would say use that. If they haven't, which they should have, but if they haven't, then maybe start thinking now, maybe you start listing all the jobs and skills and everything that you do within the role that you're working in at the moment, and then pick out the key things that you think would be really good for a future employer to learn about. So you do this, as I said, so the most recent first, and then obviously the previous one and the previous one. You can, on there, some people do, some people don't, personal preference, put why it is that you left each role. So for example, it might be redundancy, it could be relocation. People don't, because sometimes if they've been dismissed, probably not the best thing to put on, it does happen. But again, if there's valid reasons, there's no harm in putting that. I would say you don't want to go back any more than about 15 years. For some people that could be one job, for others it could be 10 jobs. Again, it's really looking at the individual and how many jobs you have. There is a way of succinctly tying these jobs in together and the dates in, but that's when you'll need a professional recruiter or a professional sort of CV writer to come in and help you do that if you're unsure. But ultimately you want to go back sort of about 15, maybe 20 years if it's, say in my case of my work history, if again it's relevant and if it's easy to do so. Lastly, now this again, you don't have to do this, some people do, I personally like to see this, is your hobbies and interests. This is where it gives the reader, the resourcer, the recruiter, the HR person a little bit more information and background as to what it is that your hobbies are. So there could be that connection, there could be an affiliation with the person looking at your CV, and they might go, oh my god, yeah, I like doing, I don't know, abseiling, or I like hiking in the mountains. Some people don't because they're scared that maybe their sports, if they are quite extreme, might put the employer off. Again, that is a judgment call. There is no right or wrong way. I personally would put them on. I think I'm intrigued by somebody of how their brain works and what makes them do that. And that makes them a fascinating person. But ultimately, there might be businesses that are a little bit sort of risk averse. And even say playing football, some people say it's a bit of a dangerous sport. You might get a broken leg, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a personal preference. So definitely hobbies and interests. References, I would say leave off. And when you're presenting them in an interview, you can, if you've asked the referees, to present their name and contact details, then it also gives you a bit more space. So if you're finding that you're sort of trying to cram everything in to put your referees on, then I wouldn't, just put available on request. So that's sort of the structure. Everything needs to be spell checked. And I mean, not just spell check, because sometimes the word might be spelt correctly, but it's in the wrong context. So definitely proofread, and ask somebody to proofread it for you. Most human brains, when they read, they will fill in the gaps if they're wrong and automatically correct the word. So get a proofreader if you know somebody brilliant or somebody who's really good at English and grammar. Because again, these are things that employers will be picking up on. Is there a capital T in the wrong place? Have you started the sentence with a capital and? Have you put commas in the right or wrong place? So just, as I said, have a real think, because this is your opportunity to impress people that you haven't met yet. We as recruiters understand not everyone understands how to write a CV, so we can look beyond that, but a lot of employers won't. So just make sure that, as I said, you've got maybe a family member. If you work with a recruitment agency like ourselves at Redberry here, then that would be great. Never lie on a CV. Those of you that watch The Apprentice, I am sure that when you get to that, which is the bit I love actually, when they're down to the interview stage, not that I would want to sit in front of Claude or any of those, because they are quite scary and quite daunting, but just have a think about what it is that you are trying to get across. If you elaborate too much, or if somebody's written it for you and you don't really know what the words that they're using, so they are maybe a little bit more sort of grammatically clever, say, than you are, and they're using words that you sort of can't pronounce or you don't use, and that's going to be a little bit sort of concerning when you get into interview stage. And equally, as I said, if you start lying about your qualifications and the background and the checks are being done, you don't want to be caught out. So as I said, so don't lie. Keep it as concise as possible. There are, say, rights and wrong ways. Hopefully today just giving you a little bit of an idea as to sort of how to write, what we would call the perfect CV. There might be a time when CVs are no longer going to be used. That would be my preference, because I think people, I have to say, doesn't give you the personality, though you can read a little bit about sort of how they write things. But ultimately, while they're still there needed, while businesses and HR departments are still asking for a CV and as part of the application process, then unfortunately, we will continue to ask people to write CVs. Any questions, please obviously pop them on. We're also happy to get back to you. If you've liked what you've watched, then please, like it, share it, let people know. So we are here to help. The 3 offices that we've got in Shepton are in Somerset, one's in Shepton. We're always, sort of able to answer a call and help where we can. Have a good day. Take care.